please read along with me beginning on page 308 of your textbook as we read Brother Ray, Ray Charles's Own Story by Ray Charles and David Ritz. First, some information about the artist and his music. Ray Charles lived from 1930 until 2004 and once said, "I never wanted to be famous. I only wanted to be great." Few people have influenced American music as much as Ray Charles. His nickname was the Genius. Charles grew up in a small town in Florida. At the age of 7, he became blind. Later, when he was sent to a school for the blind, he learned things that would greatly affect how he would live his life. He learned how to read and type Braille, a language that uses small raised dots or bumps on paper for the letters of the alphabet. Readers feel the words with their fingers instead of using their eyes to see them. He learned how to play the piano and the clarinet. He also heard different kinds of music that he'd never heard before, from classical and big band to country western. While he was still a teen, Ray Charles began earning money by playing music. He started out by playing with other musicians in small clubs. Soon he was blending different musical styles into a new style called soul. People who came to the clubs loved this new sound. By the 1950s, he had become very popular. Charles's career lasted for more than 50 years. He received 12 Grammy Awards and earned a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But Ray Charles was humble, as he revealed in a 1993 Rolling Stone interview. "When people call me a genius or a legend, they're just showing the ultimate respect for my music. I know very well that I'm far from a genius. I'm just a guy who does a lot of things in music pretty well." Our purpose as we read. Ray Charles started going blind as a child. Find out how everything changed for him and his mother. Mama always wanted me to learn things. Even though she didn't have much education herself, she taught me all she knew: the numbers, the alphabet, the way to spell, how to add and subtract. So when I started going blind, she began to look into schools for me. I was the only blind person in Greenville. People just didn't know what to do with me. Mama sought out advice. She asked Miss Ladd, who worked at the post office. She talked to the banker and to Mr. Reams, who owned the general store. Soon everyone in town learned about my plight. It was the white folks who told Mama about the State School for the Blind in St. Augustine. It didn't take her long to decide. I was going to have to go to school and live in St. Augustine. Mama knew what was best, though, and she insisted that I get some education in one form or another. She couldn't see me growing up without knowing how to read or write. She understood that one day I'd have to be on my own. My own reaction to leaving was a big, fat no. Didn't want to leave Mama. That's simple. Going blind was one thing. I was getting used to that. But leaving her was something else. She was all I knew. She was my whole world. No matter. Mama told me I was leaving, so I was leaving. End of discussion. I had a couple of months to get used to that idea, and during this last period at home, I was treated the same as a normal child. Fact is, I was made to do the same chores I had done when I could see. Mama was a country woman with a whole lot of common sense. She understood what most of our neighbors didn't, that I shouldn't grow dependent on anyone except myself. "One of these days I ain't gonna be here," she kept hammering inside my head. Meanwhile, she had me scrub floors, chop wood, wash clothes, and play outside like all the other kids. She made sure I could wash and dress myself, and her discipline didn't stop just 'cause I was blind. She wasn't about to let me get away with any foolishness. Some of the neighbors gave Mama a hard time. They got on her case when they saw me working out back, or helping her in the house. He's blind, Mama told them, but he ain't stupid. He's lost his sight, but he ain't lost his mind. So you can imagine how strong Mama had to be, and how intelligent, to fight against this outlook and allow me to go out on my own. And she did all this even with the other folks looking down on her. Not only did she make me help around the house, she made certain that I did the job right. One day, for instance, she told me to scrub and mop the floor. I thought I might as well get off easy, so I skipped the scrubbing part. I just sloshed some water around the floor and mopped up. Mama came back and blew a fuse. I mean, she was smoking with anger. Made me do the whole thing over again from scratch. That hurt. But I do believe I learned something about doing a job right. The woman never let me get away with anything just 'cause I was blind. I was treated like I was normal. I acted like I was normal. And I wound up doing exactly the same things normal people do. Take my bicycle. Somehow, I can't remember the exact circumstances, I was given one. Couldn't have been much older than 10 or 11. Riding was something I learned to do quickly. I loved the feeling of motion, and being blind wasn't going to stop me from enjoying the bike. Now, most mamas would die rather than let a blind child scoot around on a bike. And at first I know Mama was scared for me. She had to be. But she let me do it. She let me find out for myself. She let me stray, little by little, further and further away from her. And once she saw I was capable of maneuvering this bike, she became less afraid. Before we continue reading, take a moment to make a prediction. How will Ray's life change when he goes away to school, away from his mother? I'm not always going to be with you. Those were Mama's words, and I can't tell you how many times she must have said them to me. Still, they didn't start meaning anything until I was 15 and she was gone. I can't remember who gave me the news at school. I heard the words, and suddenly a series of shocks attacked my brain. A big lump formed in the middle of my throat and just stayed there, like a rock. They told me I was going home, and I went. Even after I arrived in Greenville, the lump didn't budge. I couldn't eat. Food seemed to expand in my throat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't communicate with anyone. Folks started worrying about me. No one knew what to do. I was a zombie. I had real trouble, and all I could keep thinking was why? Why couldn't I kiss her again? Then a woman came to me. She was known in Greenville as Ma Beck. Ma Beck was the salt of the earth, and when it came to matters of the heart and soul, she knew her business. She let me have it. Boy, don't you remember what your mama told you? Well, you better. You better remember what your mama said. Your mama wouldn't want you acting this way. No, she wouldn't. You know the things she'd tried to teach you. You've been acting like a crazy boy, and if she was here, she wouldn't put up with it. So stop acting like a crazy boy. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Your mama spent her whole life preparing you for this here day. You know what she taught you. You know what she told you. You gotta carry on. That's all there is to it. That's what she'd want, and that's what you gotta do. You gotta carry on, R.C. That did it. I knew that I had to have faith in myself. I had to start buying my own line. Now I'm able to do what I want when I want. I've been that way since Mama died. Lyrics from the song Hard Times by Ray Charles. My mother told me, 'fore she passed away, said, son, when I'm gone, don't forget to pray, 'cause there'll be hard times, who knows better than I. Well, I soon found out just what she meant, when I had to pawn my clothes just to pay the rent, talking about hard times, who knows better than I.